Jai Hind everyone, I am Himanshu Tripathi, and in today's session, we will discuss something very important related to design thinking. So let's start our discussion. Here we can see today we are going to discuss about the basic physical needs, and we will see that how design thinking approach is significant in fulfilling these basic physical needs. So first of all, let's try to define the basic physical needs. So while during the class, during the discussion with our students, when I put this question that do you understand what are our basic physical needs, students basically enlist a number of lists. We'll see that what are the common list or common needs that are being discussed during the class of design thinking. But here, in one line, I am trying to explain the basic physical needs for humans. The important thing is we are more concerned about the humans because using the design thinking approach, what we are going to do, we are going to design some solution, some product or service that can be utilized by the humans. So if we are concerned about the humans, I can say that basic physical needs are some fundamental requirements which are necessary for their survival, for their health, and for their well-being. We all work, we all do, our all actions basically are triggered so that we can ensure our survival. And for our survival and for happiness or for a good survival, you can say, we are always concerned about our health. It is a very old saying, then health is all the wealth. So, survival is necessary, health is equally necessary, and along with this, the overall well being of human beings, of self, of other human beings are necessary. So, I can say that all the requirements which can fulfill the survival or health or the well-being, all the needs are basically comes into the category of basic physical needs. So I was telling you in the beginning that I usually discuss, whenever we discuss this thing during the class, students come with different kind of needs. Here are few I have enlisted. The very first, very elementary, fundamental need is food. Not only the food, nutrition is also a very important part or integral part of this need. For our survival, we need food, and for our health, we need nutrition. Definitely, nutrition is coming from the food most of the time or majorly. So, food and nutrition, you can say that this is our food and nutrition is our one of basic need. The second basic need is definitely the clean water. For our survival, the clean water is necessary, and again for the health or for the well-being of our body, the clean water is utmost necessary. Shelter. Shelter is required for the protection of our body, protection of various environmental things like wind, heat, winter, and all. And also, it is required for the natural disasters as well. The next need is clothing, which is again comes into the category of basic need. It is required to protect the skin or protect our body. It is a very old saying that roti, kapda, and makan are the basic needs. So here we are talking about these basic needs, which we already know. Again, for the health and for the well-being, sleep and rest is required. Healthcare facilities or healthcare things related to healthcare things are required, like for preventive care is required, vaccination is required, and the treatment of illness and injuries are required. We require certain medicines, we require certain other things. The list is not completed yet. It is ongoing list. Like sanitation and hygiene comes into the basic need. Personal safety and security, it is also required, and we treat it as a basic need. Physical activity and exercise. Some of you may agree with me, or some of you may not agree with me. Whether whenever we discuss this thing, that what are the basic needs, it comes as a basic needs during our discussion. Physical activity or exercise doesn't mean that we regularly go to the gym or we regularly do yoga or something like that. But yes, physical activity is required. If you want to remain healthy, if you consider health is a basic need, then definitely physical activity and exercise is very important. Then clean air and environmental safety, rest and leisure. Later on, we will discuss whether leisure is a basic need or not. But here, I told you that I am simply presenting the list that we usually get during our discussion in the classroom. And the basic education, most of the people think that this is also a basic need in today's scenario. So these are some very basic needs which are required as per our perception. So we are interested in looking forward that how design thinking is helping us, how design thinking approach or method is relevant if we are talking about fulfilling the basic human needs. That's the question of today's session. We are studying the design thinking, and we are looking forward, or we are trying to understand. So before going deep into the basic needs, let's discuss briefly what is design thinking approach. What is this approach of design thinking? So if we say that design thinking, during the design thinking, these are the 5 major steps that we need to follow. These are the key elements of design thinking approach. These elements are basically termed as empathize, then define, then ideate, then prototype, and then test. So these are the 5 key elements of design thinking. Let me briefly explain one by one the key aspects of design thinking. The first one is empathize, and empathize basically signifies to know more about the users, to understand the user precisely. So while we are practicing the empathize during the design thinking approach, we are basically targeting that how we can learn more about the user. If we are making some innovative product, or we are working on some innovative service, we are trying to solve any particular problem, that solution must be useful for the actual users. And actual users are always considered as the human beings, because human beings are going to use that solution or product, whatever it may be. So to understand the problem, first we need to understand the users, what they are expecting, what actually they are doing, what they are performing. What is the problem? The answer of this question comes that what users are doing and why they must think, why they must agree that whatever we have signified, it is a real problem that is needed to be solved. So to understand all these aspects, to understand the user completely, we practice this step of design thinking that is known as empathize. We practice empathy. We spend time along with the users, and we try to know more about the users during various tools, like it may be questionnaire, it may be interviews, it may be other tools as well. After understanding the users, we try to get into the problem space. We try to get what is the problem, where is the gap, what are the things which are available to users, and what are the things which user may require. Most of the time, user also doesn't know that what are the things that he requires, and he is basically busy with his or her daily life. But here, in the define process, after empathy, we try to define the problem. We try to understand the problem. Once the problem is understood, and definitely this define the problem is coming from the questions that we are going to ask during the empathize phase, during the interviews or questionnaires. Once the problem is defined, we know that this is the gap and here we need to work. Then we come to the main point, what we want to create. So define is basically triggering the next element of design thinking approach, that is ideate. Here at this step, we are trying to figure out the one key problem which is the most appropriate in our problem space, which is more appropriate way to solve the challenge that we have got during the empathize or the define phase. During the ideation, brainstorming is a key word. We need to do a lot of brainstorming and we need to get into the solution of our problem. Once it is defined that, okay, this is the problem and how we, this is the way how we are going to solve this problem, we create a working prototype. This working prototype is for the users, for the designers also, but it is more appropriate for the users because we are going to give this working prototype to the users and ask them to use it if we are concerned about a product. Then user may give you feedback whether this solution, whatever we have created, is relevant for them or still there are some gaps. So prototype here means that we are ready to build representations. It may be for one idea or at a time we may work on more than one idea as well. Then in the testing phase, we are providing this prototype to the users and we are asking them to use it. While the users will be using this prototype or this solution that we have created, they will give us a feedback. And this feedback will define whether our approach was right or we need to reiterate the process. So this is in short the approach of design thinking. In design thinking, we work majorly in 5 steps. The first one is empathize, then define, then ideate, then prototype, and then test. Yes, it is true that we can move backward or move forward in between this diagram anytime. We are ideating something and we think that our idea is not going to work properly. During the brainstorming, there may be a lot of questions regarding that idea. We can go back to the define phase and again try to define the problem. We are developing prototype and we think that this prototype is not working as we were thinking earlier. While in the ideating phase, we can go back to the ideating phase and rework the idea. Similarly, during the test, we can find out that the user is not happy. User find that solution is not appropriate or relevant. So we can go back to any step wherever we feel the lag had happened. We may go to the empathize to understand user again. We can go to define the problem again, ideate and prototype. So this is the way how we work with design thinking. But our today's question is not the explanation of design thinking approach. Our today's question is that does design thinking theory justifies the emphasis on physical needs? Whatever we are doing with the design thinking theory, whether we are justifying this design thinking approach in fulfillment of basic needs of human beings. This is our today's question. So we now understood the design thinking, what design thinking is what are the key elements which are involved during this approach or during this process. And we are targeting the physical needs. We are intending to understand that whether this design thinking theory is fulfilling the basic physical needs of human beings or not. So one part we have already covered. We now know that what is the design thinking approach. To answer this question, I think that we should go a little bit in detail of the basic physical needs. To understand the basic physical needs, let's discuss the correlation first, that why we are putting design thinking into the domain of basic physical needs, because we know that design thinking is a human-centered approach. We are always human-centered during the design thinking approach. We are always thinking about or talking about the users, and which are definitely the humans. It is having universal relevance. It is ensuring the inclusivity. Here, inclusivity means there are so many users across the world. All are different. All are working differently. All are thinking differently. So while we are focusing towards the design thinking, focusing towards the basic human needs, so we believe that basic human needs are almost same for every human being. So if we are working with basic physical needs during our design thinking approach, if we are targeting to fulfill the basic human needs, so this approach is basically fulfilling this characteristic of design thinking approach, that is, design thinking ensures the inclusivity, a solution that is going to fit for all, a solution that is going to be fit for the majority of the users. During the design thinking, we create sustainable design, and sustainability is required if we are targeting to fulfill the basic human needs. And to understand all these things, to correlate all these things, this is the key for our today's discussion, that is, design thinking theory addresses the Maslow's hierarchy. To understand the basic needs, and during that discussion, we will try to explain that how design thinking is fulfilling the basic needs. Design thinking approach is appropriate in fulfilling the basic needs by using this Maslow's hierarchy theory. So here you can see the picture of Abraham Maslow. He first introduced the hierarchy of needs in his research publication published in 1943. The title of the research publication was A Theory of Human Motivation. Subsequently, he published his work in a book which was titled as Motivation and Personality. And here, first time, Maslow introduced the basic human needs in a very interesting manner. So today we are going into the detail of this Maslow's need theory, and the key line, the key phrase during this Maslow's theory is that people are always motivated to fulfill basic needs before moving on to other, more advanced needs. We have different kind of needs, we'll see, and all the needs cannot be fulfilled at once. Our priority, basically, we decide our priority. First, we will try to fulfill our very basic needs, which are essential for our survival. Then we move into the others. Then we move one level up to fulfill our needs. This pyramid or this diagram is also known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs or Maslow's needs pyramid. Here in this diagram, you can see that according to the Maslow's theory, the needs are basically divided into 5 different levels. The first level is representing the physiological needs that are very basic. Every human being first try to fulfill these needs. We all try to fulfill these physiological needs. Then, once these needs are fulfilled, then we start thinking to fulfill the next level, that is the safety needs. Believe me, you can think that if your physiological needs are not fulfilled, you may not be so much concerned about the safety needs. Once your safety needs are also fulfilled, then you will be concerned about the love and belonging need of love and belongingness. Once this need is being fulfilled, we will move towards the esteem need. And the final is self actualization. Self actualization is actually at the top of this pyramid. So we cannot say that if our physiological needs are not fulfilled and we are talking about the self actualization. This may not happen. During the product development or the service development, we need to think about it. By our work, by our innovation, which category of needs we are going to fulfill? This is a very important thing. So, every human being is interested. If we are working on esteem or self actualization or love and belongingness, we must be ensured that our target audience, that our target users, has actually fulfilled their physiological or safety needs. Because if we are targeting the users which are struggling in fulfillment of their physiological needs, and we are giving them something related to esteem or related to love and belongingness, it may be difficult for them to get that. It will be difficult for them to accept that solution. That is the conclusion that Maslow has driven during his theory. And this theory is very popularly known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or it is also known as Maslow's pyramid of need. Let's dive deep one by one into these 5 aspects of needs. So the first need is the physiological need. Physiological needs include those that are vital to survive, which are very important or necessary to survival. These needs are basically, as I have already described these needs in starting slides of my presentation: food, water, clean air, health. These are the basic needs that we need to cover. So every human being is concerned to fulfill their physiological needs that are very basic for the survival. In addition to the basic requirements of food, nutrition, air, temperature, physiological needs also include shelter, clothing, etc. As we have discussed, because we started our discussion with the very basic physical needs. And this is my experience. I have seen during the discussions in my classroom that everybody is concerned about these basic physical needs. So, next level, once user fulfills their basic physiological needs, he or she may try to move one level up, and here comes into the picture the safety need. Safety need is the second block of this Maslow pyramid, and in the safety need we are concerned about the safety, whether it may be your physical safety, safety against accident and injury, or it may be about your financial security, health and wellness and all. and all our actions are basically triggered to fulfill these needs. Like, we try to get a job, we obtain health insurance, we save money, we invest somewhere. So these are the safety needs. Here we can also say that safety plus physiological needs together forms the basic needs. So this is the very basic thing that is required for every user, that he or she must be able to fulfill his physiological needs and safety needs. Once these needs are fulfilled, we move upward. If we are living happily, we are healthy, we have good food, we have nutritious food. Now, our new need arises. This need is of being loved, or this need is of belongingness. We all can sense that, we all can accept that fact. The common examples of these needs are friendships, romantic attachments, family relationships, social groups, or community groups, or religious places where we get together with each other. Why we are doing this? Because we live in a society, and in society we cannot live in complete isolation or with loneliness. So if we are getting all the basic needs, the next thing is which is required is the love and belongingness. Consider a fact that a person who is living roadside, he doesn't care whether you are loving him, whether you are showing some kind of attachment with that person. Because if he is hungry, the first priority or the first need that he need to fulfill is the food. That is the scene that we usually see on the roadsides daily. The next thing is the need of esteem. If you are living with a family, if you are living with your friends, you have a lot of friends, you have some attachments, you have some relationships with you, then suddenly or gradually one more need arises. Now, this time we start thinking about the esteem. We want respect. We want others. During the love and belongingness, we want others to accept us as we are. But during the esteem need, we want respect. We want some self-respect. We want others to respect us. We want others to hear us. We want others to give value to us. That is the need that we can categorize into the category of esteem need. If user cannot fulfill the esteem need, he will face the inferiority. And if user fulfills this esteem need, he will feel confident. So as we have seen that physiological or safety needs together making the basic physical needs, similarly esteem and social needs. Social need means the love and belongingness. These together form the psychological needs. So according to the Maslow, the first category is physiological needs or the basic needs, and the second category is psychological needs. Once all these needs are fulfilled for the user, then user thinks the self-actualization. Self-actualized people are basically self-aware. They are concerned with their personal growth. They are very less concerned with opinion of others. It doesn't matter. They doesn't basically give emphasis or importance what others are thinking about them. They are more interested in fulfilling their potential. They understand self and they always try to fulfill their potential. These kind of peoples are basically known as self-actualized people. So that's it for this today's session. In future sessions, we'll talk about more the different aspects of design thinking and different aspects where we can apply the design thinking. Jai Hind to all.